Question 1 related to Agile methodology. What is Agile, and how have you implemented it in your projects? Agile is an iterative and incremental approach to software development. I've used Agile in projects by conducting sprint planning, daily stand-ups, and retrospectives. We used tools like Jira to manage the backlog and foster transparency among teams. Question 2 related to Scrum. Can you explain the roles in a Scrum team? Scrum has 3 key roles. Product owner defines and prioritizes requirements, Scrum Master facilitates the process, removes blockers, and the development team builds the product. Each has a clear responsibility to ensure iterative delivery and team accountability. Question 3 related to Stakeholder Management. How do you handle conflicting stakeholder requirements? I first conduct stakeholder interviews to understand each perspective, then document and prioritize requirements based on business impact. I use conflict resolution techniques, align on project goals, and present trade-offs clearly to ensure consensus and transparency. Question 4 related to Risk Management. Describe your process for identifying and mitigating risks in software projects. I use a risk register to identify potential issues early. Each risk is categorized by probability and impact. I assign mitigation plans and risk owners. Regular risk reviews in status meetings help proactively manage issues before they escalate. Question 5 related to Project Lifecycle. What are the key phases in a software project lifecycle? The key phases are initiation, planning, execution, monitoring and controlling, and closure. Each phase includes specific tasks like scope definition, schedule management, team assignments, and final handoffs to ensure successful delivery. Question 6 related to Estimation Techniques. Which estimation techniques do you use for IT projects? I use story points and planning poker for Agile projects. For waterfall, I prefer function point analysis or expert judgment. I always include contingency buffers and consult historical data for accuracy. Question 7 related to Time Management. How do you ensure project timelines are met? I create a detailed WBS, break down tasks, assign resources, and set realistic deadlines. I track progress using Gantt charts and Agile burndown charts. Regular check-ins and risk buffers help me keep timelines on track. Question 8 related to Budgeting. How do you manage budgets in IT projects? I create a cost baseline including labor, software, and hardware. I track actuals versus planned costs regularly using tools like MS Project or Excel. I flag variances early and reallocate resources if necessary to avoid overruns. Question 9 related to Team Management. How do you handle underperforming team members? I first identify the root cause, skills mismatch, workload, or communication. I provide feedback, training, or reassign roles. I ensure expectations are clear and set short-term goals to measure improvement while maintaining team morale. Question 10 related to Communication. How do you ensure effective communication within a distributed development team? I establish a communication plan using Slack, email, and scheduled meetings. I define response time SLAs and use project dashboards to ensure transparency. Clear documentation and time zone alignment help bridge gaps. Question 11 related to Change Management. How do you handle frequent scope changes in a project? I document every change request using a formal change control process. I assess its impact on scope, timeline, and cost. After stakeholder approval, I adjust the plan and update the team to maintain clarity. Question 12 related to Conflict Resolution. Give an example where you resolved a team conflict. In one project, developers and QA clashed over release timelines. I facilitated a meeting, helped each side understand the other's constraints, and revised the sprint process to include better handoff checkpoints. This improved collaboration. Question 13 related to client communication. How do you manage client expectations in a dynamic software environment? I use weekly status reports, demos, and early prototyping. I clarify scope in the SOW and highlight limitations. By setting realistic timelines and sharing progress transparently, I ensure clients stay engaged and informed. Question 14 related to KPIs. What key performance indicators do you track in your projects? I track velocity, sprint burndown, budget variance, earned value, defect density, and customer satisfaction scores. These KPIs help evaluate project health and team performance. Question 15 related to tools. What project management tools are you proficient in? I've used Jira, Trello, MS Project, Asana, Monday.com, and ClickUp. I'm also skilled with Excel, Confluence, and Power BI for reporting. My preference depends on project size and team needs. Question 16 related to vendor management. How do you manage external vendors or contractors? I define SLAs, create clear contracts, and schedule regular reviews. I use performance scorecards and ensure deliverables are well defined. Communication is documented to avoid misalignment. Question 17 related to documentation. What documentation do you maintain in a software project? I maintain project charters, requirement specs, risk logs, change logs, user stories, test cases, deployment plans, and lessons learned documentation. These ensure traceability and knowledge transfer. Question 18 related to DevOps integration. How do you align project management with DevOps practices? I ensure CI/CD pipelines are part of the project scope. I collaborate closely with developers and DevOps engineers to streamline deployment and monitor system health. Frequent releases mean faster feedback and issue resolution. Question 19 related to quality assurance. How do you ensure quality in a software development project? I involve QA from the planning phase, integrate automated testing, define acceptance criteria, and schedule regular test cycles. I track defects and hold retrospectives to identify quality gaps. Question 20 related to sprint planning. What makes a successful sprint planning session? Clear goals, prioritized backlog, team availability, and accurate capacity planning. The team must understand the scope and agree on the commitment for the sprint. Question 21 related to velocity tracking. How do you calculate and use team velocity? Velocity is the number of story points completed in a sprint. I track it across multiple sprints to forecast delivery timelines and adjust future sprint planning. Question 22 related to retrospectives. What is the purpose of sprint retrospectives, and how do you conduct them? Retrospectives help identify what went well, what didn't, and what to improve. I use techniques like start-stop-continue and gather anonymous feedback to encourage honesty. Question 23 related to waterfall versus agile. Which is better, agile or waterfall? It depends. Agile is better for iterative and fast-paced projects, while waterfall suits fixed scope and regulated environments. I choose based on project size, client needs, and risk tolerance. Question 24 related to hybrid models. Have you used hybrid project management models? Yes, combining agile development with waterfall planning. For example, requirements and budgets follow a traditional model, while development happens in sprints to allow flexibility. Question 25 related to onboarding developers. How do you onboard new developers into an ongoing project? I provide access to project documentation, assign mentors, and conduct walkthroughs of the codebase and workflows. I track onboarding KPIs to ensure a smooth transition.